Hi everyone, this is Chris. I'm going to try and help you get through this 3D modeling unit. So I'm going to assume that if you've been off the previous week, I'm going to take this right from the start. Right, so when you load up Maya, you may end up with this home screen. The easiest thing to do is whatever happens, just go to New up here. I hope you can see my mouse. I'll try and move it around a little bit so you can see where I'm at. So we're going to adjust a few settings first. They shouldn't take too long. We're going to go into Windows. We're going to go into Settings and Preferences and across to Preferences. Click on that, and there's a couple of things I want you to do. We go to Settings about halfway down here. Working units, we want to change those to meters, like that. That's because we're going to make a bus shelter, so it needs to show up in meters. We'd come down here to where it says Files and Projects. We can enable autosave, and it'll save it every 10 minutes. If you want it to save it more often, you can change that to 5, but I think 10 is fine. We're going to just scroll down here, and want to make sure file dialog, you want it to be on OS native. That means if we open up anything, it's going to bring up Windows screens rather than Maya's own way of handling files. Just a little bit easier, and it's what I change it to all the time. So with those two, we can just save that and we can get to work. So you may have some keyboard shortcut sheets. If you do need them, just send me an email or ask Hannah. So I'll just quickly go through navigation with you again. So I'm just going to make a quick cube here. Okay, so to get around, you always hold down Alt. So it's just to the left of the spacebar. Hold down Alt, left click allows you to orbit around something. Okay, so you always need to hold down Alt, left click. If you click down the mouse wheel, it'll allow you to move left, right, up and down. And to zoom in and out, you just roll the mouse wheel. Or if you want to, you can hold down Alt and click the right mouse button and go from left to right. Show you a couple more things. Let's move this. If I want to focus in on something, let's say I've got this selected, but I really want to focus in on this. Because at the moment, the camera is sort of in between both of them, isn't it? If I press F to focus, can you see? Now it brings it front and center, so you can now orbit around that model. Same with this one. If I click on this one and press F, there we go. Okay, so you've got those keyboard shortcuts. The only other thing you need to do is know how to select, move, rotate, and scale. And these are all under keyboard shortcuts. So you can use them here. You've got select, you've got move, you've got rotate, and you've got scale. It's a lot quicker though to use Q to select, W for move. So when you're moving something, you can move it in this direction, and this direction. Axes are the proper term, and they are down here. So you can see the x-axis here is in red. So we can move it on the x-axis, y, and the z. You can also move it in a direction from the middle, but that can tend to get you lost in space quite quickly. So you're best really just sticking with these. So that's W for move, E goes to rotate, and again you're clicking on one of these rings which corresponds to the axis, like that. And you can also, if you wanted to move it in any direction, you click in the middle and it allows you to freely rotate. Again, I prefer just doing it one axis at a time. You'll soon see why that's important. Finally, if we press R, we've got a scale tool. I'm just going to drop another cube into there. With scaling, if you want to make something larger, you're going to scale it in all directions, and that's the middle one. So we click, drag to the right to make it bigger, drag to the right to make it smaller. If we want to make it thinner along this red axis, we can click on that one, stretch it out, make it thinner, and we can do the same that way. Okay, so I'll often keep telling you to, you can select things in whichever tool you want, but can you see sometimes these can get in the way. So if I'm trying to select this or select this, all these manipulators can get in the way. So it's just good practice just to press Q, so you can select stuff and then move into one of these tools. Right, awesome. Let's get rid of those. So I'm just dragging over all those and pressing delete. Couple more things to change view. At the moment we're in perspective view. If you want to change view, tap the space bar, and you've got a top view, perspective view, side view, and front view. So if I drop a sort of donut shape into there, you can see all these different views. I'm just scrolling out on them. This top view, and if you want to go into one of these views, you just put your mouse over it, tap once with the space bar. If you want to get it back out of it, tap it again, tap it. So you can just keep moving in and out of these views. Pretty easy, really. The only other thing is sometimes we need to change between, we're in object mode at the moment, you can tell that because it's all selected, but sometimes we want to go into edge mode or face mode. So to do that, we hold down the right mouse button. So we're in object mode at the moment, hold it down, keep it held down, go down to face, let go. Now we can select individual faces. And so obviously you can then use the move tool and move this face and everything else goes with it. We can go into edge mode, so we can right click, hold it down, go up to edge, let go, and now we can select an edge, move an edge, or we can even go into vertex mode, and vertex, we hold it down, right mouse button, vertex, it's these little dots basically that make up the model. And a lot of 3D modeling just comes down to us using combinations of these. Okay, I'm going to go back into object mode, so I'm going to right click, hold it down, object mode. I'm just going to delete that. And what we need to do first is just set up our project, because Maya needs somewhere on your hard drive to store it all to. So the way we do that is we go up to the top here, go to File, and we go to Project Window. Click on that, and it'll bring up this. These are all the folders it's going to make, because your scenes, each time you save it, it's saving it as a new scene. Your scenes will get saved into there. If you bring any source images in, they'll get saved into source images, obviously. If you've got autosave on, which you have, they'll save into there. So it just sets this all up for you. So to set up a new one, we're going to go to where it says New, click on that, and it's just going to ask you where do you want to save this to. So I'm going to click on this folder. I'm going to save it to my desktop. Save it to wherever you want on your computer. Just make sure that you've got enough profile space. So I'm going to save it to my desktop, select folder, and I'm going to just rename the project. I'm going to call it Bus Stop 1 for some reason. Okay, I'm going to click accept on that. So now when we save anything, it's going to save it into that folder. So we're going to make a bus stop, and I'm basing the design off this roughly. We're also going to put in a poster, and we'll actually make it illuminated. So I started off a different way with you the other day, but we'll perhaps give this a go in a different way, if that makes any sense whatsoever. Right, double click on the cube. Just make sure you're poly modeling. These are different shelves. You see they've all got different attributes. Make sure that poly modeling is clicked on there. And we're going to double click on the cube. And when we double click, we can actually change the dimensions and things like that. So for width, we're going to leave it as 1 because it's going to be 1 meter wide. The height of it is going to be 2 meters, which is about 6'5". Depth, we're going to put at 0.05. It's going to be pretty thin. All these you can keep the same, and we're going to click Create. So it's 1 to 0.05. Click Create. Okay, so this is one of our panels for our bus stop, and what we'll do one of them and then we'll clone it for the rest of them, because we're basically going to end up with 3 in a line like this, and we're going to end up with 1 coming out this way. If you ever mess up in Maya, just press Z, 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 and you get back to there. Okay, so we're going to make the metal frame that the glass is going to sit into. So I'm going to right click, go into face mode. Okay, if I click on this face, it just selects this face, right, and the reverse face isn't selected. If I click and drag a little marquee out, it's going to look for anything that it's selected. So it's going to go straight through, and it's going to select both sides of it, which is what we want. Okay, we're going to go to extrude, which is Control and E for extrude. and you'll get this little pop-up panel here. I'm going to go to offset, and let's just drag this, I don't know, about 3.6, doesn't really matter, I'll do it at 4. Okay, so I've clicked on 4, I've clicked enter, and now I'm going to click off it. Okay, so that's our little panel. Let us now, I'm going to click on this face here, delete it. I've got another face behind it, click on that, delete it. So we've basically inset this area all the way around, and this is going to make our frame. But at the moment you can see that the inner face is black and it needs to be a solid watertight shape. So we need to bridge all these, we need to sort of correct them. So to do that, we're going to right click, go into edge mode, and I'm going to double click on this edge. Now when you double click on something, it will follow it around in a circle, and as long as it's an unbroken circle, it'll come right the way back. Pretty handy really. We also need to select all these edges as well. So I'm going to hold down shift. I've not clicked off this yet, this is still selected. Hold down shift, double click its friend there. So once you've got these two selected, we're going to go up to here and bridge them. Bridge looks like a little child's hopscotch, so if we just click on that, it will fill them all in quite nicely. While we've got these two selected, we'll also bevel the edges. So to do that, it's Control and B for bevel, and it basically splits. So we had one edge there before, and now it's gone to 2. I'm going to put a couple more segments in and maybe make the fraction a little bit larger. Something like that, and then I'll click away from it. So now it's given us a sort of nice smooth interior. So that's one of our frames. We obviously need some glass to go into the center, so I'm just going to click on the cube because it's remembered the settings from last time. And we just need to change it a little bit because it's at the moment this glass is the same exact dimensions as the frame. So I'm going to press R. I'm going to scale it inwards this way just a bit. I'm going to scale it on the red as well just a little bit to bring it in. I'm also going to scale it on the green just a bit. Just a very small amount. If you look around it, it should still be up against the edges of these frames. Right, okay, so we've got one of the windows. So what we'll do now is we're going to drag over them so it selects both the window and the frame, and we'll do Control and D to duplicate. Oh, it says no objects to duplicate. That's because I wasn't in object mode. Drag over them, Control and D. Okay, that's made a copy, and it's put the copy directly over the top of this one. So we press W to go into our move tool, and let's just move this way. Now don't worry about getting these perfect, but just try and get them more or less lined up. Let's do it again, Control and D to duplicate. Drag this one over as well. You can zoom in a little bit and just get them touching. Again, if they overlap, it's fine. And we'll do it one more time, Control and D. This time I'm going to drag it this way, and we need to rotate this because we need a 90-degree angle. I'm just going to change my background so it's a bit easier for you to see. There we go. So if we press E for rotate and start on this yellow one, if you look in the top right here, it says -22. So when I start moving it, you'll see that it's changed. So what I can do is it obviously needs to be -90. So I'm going to go in there and type -90, press enter. I'm going to press off that, drag over it again, press onto W, and we're going to just place these. This might take a little bit of, there you go, I want it like that so it's just got a little bit of a corner to it. Okie dokie, so we've got all our main pieces of glass in. There will be another one on this side, but we'll do that later on. Right, so now these are in place, we're going to put some uprights which are going to go straight through these parts of the bus shelter. So I'm going to double click on the cylinder in the top left hand corner, and we'll make the radius 0.025, and we'll make the height 2.2, and since we're in meters it's going to make it 2.2 meters high. Axis we'll keep at 20, that's how many edges are going around the outside of the cylinder. Height divisions we'll keep at, well, let's put them at 18. Cap divisions for, now we'll keep those at like 2, I think, and I think we'll put them in Y. So just to go over that again, 0.025, 2.2, 20, 18 to Y. Create. Awesome. Right, okay. So let's move this. So I'm pressing W, moving this just a little bit out of the way. And what I want to do is make this top bit flared outwards a little bit. So I've put all these divisions in. This one needs moving up a little bit higher. So I'm going to right click, go into edge mode, let go of the mouse, and I'm going to zoom right in. Well, in fact, if I click one of these and press F, it will focus it. Right, so I'm going to double click this entire loop. Can you see? It gets it all the way through. I'm just going to move this a little bit closer to the top because I just want the end bit just to come out a little bit. I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to go into face mode. So right click, hold it down, go into face mode. I'm going to press Q to make sure I'm just in my selection mode. I'm going to hold down tab, and tab is next to Q on the keyboard. And I'm going to click and just paint these. So I'm just hitting the left mouse button and just pretending like I'm painting. Just be careful with this because if if you're a bit, you can select the wrong area. So get those selected like that. And now I want to make this top bit a bit wider. So I'm going to press R to go into scale. I'm going to choose this light blue middle part, just drag it out to the right a little bit. Let's zoom out on this a bit. Do it as much or as little as you want. That's about fine. It's just so we've got some type of support there. Okay, I want to move these now. So I'm still got all these faces selected. So all I need to do is right click, go into object mode, press W to move, and I'm going to move this to here. Let's look at that. Yeah, let's look from the top. That looks good. I want to make a duplicate, so I'm going to do Control and D. So like I said, it makes a copy and places it on top of itself. So I think I'll do one, Control and D, at every single sort of window frame. Control and D, and just move it on the yellow. Let's move up the model a bit. And I'll do one last one, Control and D, and then move it on the blue this time. And I think, yeah, I'll have it on the end there. Okie dokie, so that looks fine. The next thing to do is the bench that you'll sit on. Before we do that, it might be worth just saving this file. So if we've not saved yet, we can go to File, Save Scene As, and then you just save it whatever you want. Once you've saved something though, what you can do is do what they call an iterative save, and you do that by going Control Alt S. Right, so I'm overwriting some of my old ones here. What happens is whenever I make a change now and do Control Alt S, it will make a new file name with number 1 next to it, then the number 2, then the number 3. So you can basically save it in little blocks, and it's really good if you need to go back onto it. So we'll do a little bench for people to sit on. So I'm going to double click the cube, and we're going to have, so look, 2.8 by 0.05 by 0.6. Click create, and we've got our little bench. Going to move it here. What I think I'll do with this, I'm going to bevel these edges a bit like we did with the window frames. So I'm going to go Control and B for bevel, and I'll bring the fraction in just a tiny little bit, and just put a couple of segments on there. So if we see now this corner, it's just got like a bit of a chamfer on it, so our lovely patrons won't cut their hands on it. So press W, and we're going to move this into place. And what I think I'll do is, so I'm going to get it to about there. I'm going to go and check in front view. So I'm going to tap the space bar. I'm going to move to the front view, which on mine is in the bottom left hand corner. Tap the space bar then. Now I can't really see through this at the moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move up to here. And can you see it says wireframe? I'm just going to change it into wireframe. And what I can do is roughly, I mean, it's quite lucky we've got these grid lines here, so I can get it more or less dead on center. Doesn't matter if it's a tiny bit here or there. So that's fine like that. Let's tap the spacebar again. We can look from the top. That looks right. We could look from the side, and yeah, that looks right. So if it's right on those three views, it'll be right in perspective. We might need to sort out the height a little bit later, but that's absolutely fine. And if you're wondering why this keeps jumping around everywhere, it's because I filmed this entire thing, spent about an hour and a half on it, and it didn't save the screen recording. So I'm now getting paranoid and stopping every single step. Right, we're going to make some uprights for this seat to sit in. I want to just talk to you about optimization. So I'm just going to, you don't need to do this, I'm just going to reset the settings for my cube and just make a cube. So part of your unit, just talk about optimization of the scene, and this is a good way to sort of introduce it. So this is very basic modeling we're doing. When you're using Maya, you usually end up smoothing things. So this cube, if I press 1, it's in the standard mode. If I press 2, it will smooth this cube into a ball in this case and show the original shape of the cube. If I press 3, it will show you just it smoothed. So what we've basically done there is if we go to mesh and we go to smooth and I do it by a couple of divisions, it's basically showing us that it's done that. And you can see all of these extra squares we've got here, extra faces. This is where this optimization comes in, because this is just a smooth preview. So it's great when it comes to rendering it or sending it off for animation or anything like that. You can tell it to smooth it, but you can always reverse it. It's just to keep the file size down, and it's so you can come back and make adjustments to it. But to control that, what we need to do, if we've got a big distance between, let me just, right, you see this line I've just highlighted? It goes from there to there to there and smooths it, so it goes from there to there to there, and it tries to make an arc going through it. So if I put a line going through here and press 3, can you see it's starting to add a little bit more control? And what you typically do is we put a line there and a line there. So this main line here now has a friend there and a friend there. Now when I smooth it, you see how sharp that edge is. So the reason it's good for optimization is that you can get these extremely complex shapes with organic forms turning everywhere and hard edges and stuff through very little effort and through a very small amount of polygons. I'm going to do something a little bit like that with these uprights. So let's double click on the cube again, and this time we're going to put in 0.1, and the next one is going to be 1 because it's going to be a meter high. The depth is going to be 0.6, and this time subdivisions on height is going to be 2. Let's click create. So we've got this little chunk of a thing. Let's move this out. So I've pressed W to get into my move tool. And what we'll do, we'll move it way out here so we can see it easy enough. We're going to do a slightly similar thing as we did to the window frames. I'm going to go into face mode. I'm going to just drag here. I'm going to hold down shift and drag here and let go. So again, I've got both edges, both faces selected. I'm going to go Control and E, and we're going to offset this. So we're going to make a sort of frame for this as well. So I'm offsetting it by about 4, but I want it to offset from that middle line as well. So all we need to do with that is click Keep Faces Together off. See, so it makes this nice area here. Click off it, come back, get rid of these faces by clicking on them, and once again we're going to do that bridge thing. So I'm going to go into edge mode, so right click edge mode, double click that one to select the loop, hold shift, double click that one to select the loop, then go to our little hopscotch there, click bridge, do the same here, double click, shift, double click, bridge. And so we've got the startings of this. So let's go into object mode, smoothing this. So I'm going to press 3, and it makes a little bit of a mess. It sort of looks like fidget spinner or something. We want a little bit more control over this, but we want this top bit to be like a hand rest, and this bottom bit wants to be a lot flatter. So I'm going to go into multi-cut, which is down here. if you go into the modeling toolkit. Otherwise, yeah, it's up here as well. So perhaps we'll select it from there just to be a little bit easier. We're going to come down to here. I'm going to hold down Control, and I want to slice this perfectly in half. Now, luckily, there is a thing there showing the percentage, but if you just, even if I put it right down here, and if I press the middle mouse button down the wheel, it will snap to 50%. So I'm going to do one there. So I'm still holding Control down to make that loop, and I'll put one here. Now let's try smoothing it again with 3. That's not too bad. So I want this to get even tighter in this corner. So I'm going to add some more. So I'm going to put one there, one there, one there, and one there. Press 3. Yeah, let's do one more. So each time I'm sort of closing the gap by half. Right, see that? Really nice and sharp. And we need a little bit more up here, but just not as much. So I'll put a midway one there, one on that side, one on that side. Let's try that. Yeah, that's pretty good. So we've got a nice organic shape made out of not too many polygons, which is quite sharp at the bottom and a lot more organic at the top. So I'm going to press Q, going to right click, go into object mode, press W. I'm going to line this back up. See? Right, let's go into a different view. So I'm going to go into the side view. And again, if you want, you can put it into wireframe mode, which might be handy. So I'm going to line this up. Just going to change the colour of the background. Line it up with the floor, which is like there. And we'll try the front view. Move it this way. So I'm going to put one here, and I'm going to duplicate this. So Control and D, and then move the copy to the middle on this grid line, and Control D, move this copy into the middle as well. Let's go back into our perspective mode. That's looking okay. We just need to drop this bench down a little bit. So I've selected it, W from the move tool, and let's put it about there. So now you can sit down and you'll have a little hand rest to grip onto. Okay, not too bad. Let's save this. Control Alt S, and it'll basically save it as a new file. What we need to do now, we're almost done with this. We need to make the canopy that goes over the top. So in order to do that, we're going to use a cylinder. So let's double click on the cylinder up in the top left. And for your cylinder, now as I might have said before, if I was making this from scratch, I would just make a cylinder and then alter it. I'm only giving you these exact measurements because I've already done it and it'll save a lot of time. So radius 0.57, height we'll do 4, axis divisions we'll do 32, we'll do 17 height divisions and 4 cap divisions, and we'll make this time in X. So let's click create. Boom. So we've got this big nightmarish mess. So we'll move this up and out of the way, so make sure you've pressed W. We'll move it up just so we've got a little bit of room. And let's go into the front view. So spacebar, make your way to front, which is here, spacebar again. And if we go up here, no, in fact we don't want the front, we want the side. Let's go into side view, go up to here, and we want to slice this in half. So I'm going to right click, go to face mode. I'm going to drag over all these faces, and I'm going to press delete. And also, can you see I've missed these two? No problem, drag over them, press delete. If you just click on one and press delete, this one here, if I highlight it and show you on the perspective thing, it's actually way down there. So this is why we drag over stuff. When you drag over it, it basically selects anything in its path. Funnily enough, we also need to get rid of this shape, but we'll actually make the glass first. So we've got this. So let's go to object mode, and let's do Control and D to duplicate it. And so that's made one called Polycylinder 7 on this outliner. If I double click in that, I'm just going to call it glass. Click off it, click back on it, and press H, and that'll hide it. It's just so it's in the same position. Let's go back onto our normal framework, go back into that side view, go into face, drag over all these faces, and what I want to do is get rid of all these faces. Just be careful you don't, in fact I'll go back and show you. Just be careful you don't just drag up there and press delete, because these top faces you can get rid of as well. All we want to do is get rid of these faces that are facing us. So we end up with this, but when we look in the perspective view, we've got this. Right, okie dokie, let's go into the front view now. And we're going to cut some areas out of this. So I'm going to right click face mode, and I'm going to drag over them in sets of 3. Delete those, miss one, 3 of them, delete, 3 of them, delete, 3 of them, delete. So you can see we're building up some type of framework. I want to join this to this, so we're going to bridge this. So I'm going to right click, go into edge mode, click on this edge, hold down shift, click on this edge, select bridge, which is that one again, click on that, and we'll put in some divisions. So let's look, maybe 6. Yeah, 6 is fine, so you can just type in 6 there if you want. Click off it, let's come around to this other end, click on this edge, hold down shift, click on this one, go to bridge, go to divisions, 6, enter. Right, so this is looking cool. It's a bit thin though, so let's thicken this up. So I'm in face mode. I'm going to double click this and it'll select all the faces. I'm going to go Control and E to extrude. I'm going to change the thickness on this and just bring up the thickness to as much as you think's right. So I'm going to do it about, I don't know, 4, something like that. So I'm doing that by 4. So that gives us a little bit of thickness. And what I'll also do is I'll make a sort of lip that's going around the entire perimeter. So we're still in face mode. If I want to select, now I can hold down shift and click all the way through, but that'll take forever. I'm going to click on this one, I'm going to hold shift, I'm going to double click the one next to it, and that will look again for that loop going all the way around it. So I'll just show you that again. So I'll click on it, hold down shift, double click its neighbour, and that should get the whole lot. We're going to extrude this again, so it's Control and E again. Thickness, let's make it just a little bit thicker. Yeah, that's pretty good. Click off that, and let's see what this looks like smoothed. So press 3, and again, because we've got quite a lot of topology, and topology is just the amount of faces, it retains its form, but it does smooth the edges out a little bit. So I'm going to right click, go into object mode. I'm going to select my glass here, which we hid before, and I'm going to press H to unhide it. And in it comes. And then all we need to really do is place this and just perhaps resize it a little bit. So I'm in object mode. I want to drag over both of them, so when I move them, they both follow my leader. Let's go into the front view. I want it just touching on the tops of those supports, and to about there. I do want this overhang because we're going to put another panel there. Let's go into the side view. So if it's right in the front and right in the side, then it's right all the way along. Let's go in perspective. That looks okay. It looks a little bit tall, so I'm going to press R. I'm going to scale it on this green because I want to push it downwards. So I'm going to squish it down a little bit like that. See, that looks a little bit more like it. Just going to move it a tiny bit. If you're happy with where it is, then that's fine. And the last thing, because I've got both of them selected, if I press 3 now, they should both smooth. So now we've got something which is really nice and organic. Okay, so let's save that. Control Alt S. Got 2 small steps before we need to move on to texturing, which will be in the next video, and that's to make another one of these panels at the other side. So I'm going to click on this, which you won't be able to see because it's inside the other one. Hold down shift, click on the frame as well, So I've selected the glass, the frame. I want to select this support, and we'll duplicate it, Control and D, and then we'll move the copy. And again, I'm going to go into my front view, so move this till it's in line perhaps with that one. So that one's on the edge, this one should be as well. So there you go, there's your bus stop. So we want to add a bit of a street scene to this, and I've already prepared you a background. It's basically a street corner and it's got like a light and stuff like that. So I'll have put this on Teams for you, so you'll need to download that file and stick it in your documents or desktop or wherever. In order to get to it, you just go to File, go to Import, and I've saved it on my desktop, and it's called Import Light Bin Road. Awesome. Click Open, and it'll come up with loads of stuff here. I'm just going to click, let's see if it's got units on it. No, it's fine. Click Import. Now it's come in tiny, so I'm going to click on it. It's all grouped under one. I'm going to come up to the channel box here. So you've got 3 tabs here: Modeling Toolkit, Attribute Editor, Channel Box. And I'm going to change this scale, because I've tried this before, to 13, 13, 13. Unlucky for some. And we end up with a nice little scene. Now, it looks to me, yeah, we're floating a bit. So let's click on this, make sure we're in object mode. I'm just going to use the move tool by pressing W again. I'm going to get this arrow and move it up until it just starts to nibble into it. If you want to see that even clearer, if you come here, there should be one called Screen Space Ambient Occlusion. That's a fancy way of saying it's just going to put some shadows on the ground. And you can see how far off I am. Just that little bit. I'll move it up until it touches that. Awesome, so we've got the beginnings of the scene. So next video, we'll put textures on all of these. We're going to put a light in here. We're going to put your poster on here, and we're going to illuminate it as well. Just a tiny bit of housekeeping that I want you to do now. For instance, if I click on this, we've made quite a few changes to this. If you look in the channel box, I've got all this big list of stuff that we've done to it. This is the history. Now, it's good in some ways that you can go back and change stuff, but once we've finished with it, we want to try and get rid of the history. So in order to do that, we're in the Poly Modeling tab here. This one here, which looks like a clock with an X, I'm going to delete the history. And we'll do it to this, delete history. In fact, we can drag over the whole damn lot, delete all the history. So now whenever you select anything, it doesn't have a big long list of stuff. That just makes your file size again smaller, and it just helps speed everything up. Okie dokie. If you're having any problems with this, you can send me a message on Teams. Remember, my name is Christopher Hart. Or I shall probably pop into one of your lessons this next week and see how you're getting on. Thank you.